Let me ask you something. Have you ever given everything to someone, only to be left behind like you meant nothing? You cared. You showed up. You tried to prove yourself. You gave your time, your attention, your loyalty, and somehow it still wasn't enough. She chose someone else, and it crushed you because it made you think, what's wrong with me? But here's the truth most men never hear. Being chosen by someone else does not define your value. Being passed over does not mean you are lacking. What it really means is that you were offering your heart in a world that doesn't understand its worth yet. Now here's where we flip the script. When a man gets rejected, most of the world will tell him to try harder, buy her flowers, text her more, win her back, do whatever it takes to prove that you're worthy. But that's a trap. And it's one that keeps you weak, needy, and stuck in a cycle where you're constantly trying to earn love. When real men don't earn love, they become the kind of man who inspires it. The pain of not being chosen is real. It's deep. It hits your pride, your ego. It stings your soul. But it's also a gift. Because that pain, it's your wake-up call. It's the thing that pushes you to stop chasing and start building, to stop begging and start leading, to stop wondering if you're enough and start becoming a man who never has to ask. This journey isn't about revenge. It's not about making her regret it, even if one day she does. It's about stepping into your real power, the power of detachment, of emotional control, of silence and space, the power of walking away, not to punish her, but to protect your peace. When you master that, everything changes. So let's talk about it. Let's talk about what real strength looks like after rejection. Let's talk about why the most attractive men are the ones who don't flinch when they're not chosen. Because they know that being chosen isn't the prize. They are. And women always come back to the man who knew his worth, even when she didn't. Let's begin. Let me paint you a picture. Imagine a man standing in front of a locked door. He knocks, he waits, he hopes. But the truth is, the door was never his to walk through. Not because he's not good enough, but because it was never meant to open for who he is becoming. This is what happens when a woman doesn't choose you. It feels personal. It feels like rejection, but it's not. It's redirection. See, most men take this moment as a sign to shrink, to doubt themselves, to lower their standards just to be accepted. But the ones who rise, the ones who truly transform, understand something far deeper. Being overlooked is a sign to level up, not to chase down what already passed you by. You have to stop trying to convince her to see your worth. Because here's the truth. Real worth isn't spoken. It's felt. And the most magnetic men are the ones who live like their value is non-negotiable. These men don't explain themselves. They don't argue for attention. They don't perform for approval. They simply walk. They walk away from what doesn't align. They walk into the unknown. And the crazy part? That silence, that absence, it echoes, it lingers, it burns into her memory because it says, I don't need you to choose me. I already did. Most women have never seen that kind of power in a man. They've only seen men who beg, plead, and cry out for validation. But you're not here to audition for love. You're here to become so complete, so grounded, that her interest or disinterest can't shake your foundation. When you stop fighting for a seat at someone else's table, you begin building your own. And let me tell you something. Women are drawn to the man who builds, who creates, who doesn't flinch when he's left out, because deep down, he knows the right people always find their way to him. That's what makes a man unforgettable. That's what makes her think twice after she's gone. And that's the power of not being chosen. When you respond like a man who doesn't beg, but builds. Have you ever noticed how silence feels louder after a storm? When a man goes quiet, not because he's broken, but because he's focused, people feel it, especially the woman who once had his attention. Let me break something down for you that most men miss. When you're not chosen, the instinct is to speak louder, to explain yourself, to show her what she's missing. But the men who actually make her feel the loss are the ones who say nothing. They don't send long texts. They don't scroll her stories. They don't try to prove they've moved on, because they don't need to prove it. They're living it. Here's the hook. When you stop broadcasting your pain and start broadcasting your progress, you shift from a man she left to a man she can't stop thinking about. Because here's the paradox most don't understand. Women don't miss you because you beg to come back. They miss you when they notice you're not even trying to return. Why? Because they start to wonder. Wait, what changed? And that question, that curiosity, that's the beginning of regret. But let me be clear. You don't do this to manipulate her. You do it because your energy, your time, your peace are not negotiable anymore. You start using your time to build muscle, to learn new skills, to create income, to sharpen your mission. You become a man who is so locked into his own path that her absence doesn't feel like a loss. It feels like a clearing. And guess what? When a woman senses that a man has emotionally released her, not in bitterness but in stillness, it rattles something in her core. Because most men wait. They wait for her to come back. They wait for closure. They wait for a second chance. But real men move. And when she looks back, all she sees is your back walking away. That's when the tables turn. That's when she realizes you weren't waiting at all. You were becoming. Let me ask you a question most men never stop to consider. Why are you so afraid of being alone? Think about it. It's not her leaving that breaks most men. It's the silence that follows. It's the space where your attention has nowhere to land. No good morning texts. No sweet validation. No one to check your ego and say, I miss you. But here's the truth that stings before it sets you free. If you need her presence to feel like a man, you were never standing tall in the first place. You were leaning, and when you lean on someone for your identity, your power, or your purpose, the moment they walk away, you fall. That's why the pain of not being chosen cuts so deep. Not because she's gone, but because she took the illusion of who you thought you were with her. So what's the answer? It's simple, but it's not easy. Learn to enjoy your own company. Not in a bitter, I don't need anyone kind of way, but in a calm, grounded, I know who I am, even in the quiet kind of way. Real men don't just survive solitude, they thrive in it. Because that silence, that empty space she left behind, it becomes a forge, a place where your mind sharpens, your body strengthens, your purpose crystallizes. You stop checking your phone. You stop fantasizing about what could have been. And instead, you double down on your growth. You write, you train, you build, you create the life you were meant to live, with or without her. And here's the magic. When a man becomes whole in solitude, the world starts chasing him. Not because he's flashy, not because he's loud, but because women can feel when a man is no longer trying to escape himself. That's rare, and anything rare is irresistible. So the next time you feel like you're losing your mind because she didn't choose you, flip the script. Make it the beginning of your comeback, not a cry for closure. Let the silence speak for you. And when you reemerge, you won't even need to announce it. Your energy will walk into rooms before you do. Let me drop a truth bomb that most men are too scared to admit. She didn't reject you. She revealed you. Ouch, right? But sit with that. When a woman doesn't choose you, she's not ruining your life. She's showing you the cracks in it. She's highlighting where you depended too much, chased too hard, or hoped she'd fill the holes you didn't want to face. And that is a gift. Because now you see exactly where the work begins. It's easy to think the pain is about her, but the pain is yours. It's your own reflection staring back at you. And instead of running from it, a real man studies it. He asks himself, why did I make her the center of my world? Why did I need her to pick me to feel worthy? Why did I shrink my power just to keep her close? See, here's the thing most men miss. You're not hurt because she walked away. You're hurt because you abandoned yourself first. You stopped listening to your gut. You gave more than you could afford. You stayed longer than you should have. And now, life is giving you a second chance to return to your core. But only if you're brave enough to take it. So how do real men respond when they're not chosen? They choose themselves harder. They stop looking at rejection as punishment and start seeing it as redirection. A wake-up call, a fire alarm going off saying, it's time to rise, it's time to rebuild, it's time to reclaim your power. Not by becoming colder, not by playing games, but by getting so grounded in who you are that your worth no longer moves with the opinions of others. And when that happens, something wild shifts. You no longer need to be chosen because you've already become the man you were meant to be. And ironically, that's when the world starts choosing you anyway. Here's something nobody tells you. The men women obsess over are not the ones who try the hardest. They're the ones who disappear into something greater. And no, I don't mean they vanish to play mind games. I mean they vanish into their purpose, into the gym, into their mission, into their craft, into their evolution. Because the truth is, when a man gets fully locked into something bigger than himself, he becomes magnetic. Women feel that. They feel, when a man's life doesn't revolve around them. They feel when they're not his center, but simply one star in his sky. And that mystery, that sense of distance, it creates an itch in the female mind that no other man can replicate. Not the sweet guy who texts every morning. Not the overachiever who buys flowers after every argument. Not the nice dude who gives up his own needs to stay close, because she doesn't want to be the main character in your life. She wants to earn a role in a story that's already powerful without her. A man who's chosen by women is a man who's already chosen his destiny first. And here's the kicker. When you're buried in your mission, when your time, energy, and focus are aimed at growth, you don't notice who didn't choose you. You don't feel the sting the same way. Why? Because you're too busy becoming the man you always knew you could be. And that silence, that absence, that devotion to something higher, it speaks louder than any love letter. It says, I am whole with or without you. And that makes her wonder if she ever really had you in the first place. Let me tell you something most men never figure out. The moment you stop trying to be picked is the moment you become unforgettable. Seriously, it's wild. See, the pain of not being chosen hits hard when your identity depends on it. When your self-worth is tied to whether she texts back, whether she wants you, whether she sees your value. But what if I told you, you don't need to be chosen to feel powerful? What if your validation came from a deeper place? A place that can't be shaken by rejection? Because here's the truth. Women don't respect men who chase. They respect men who don't flinch when they're left out. They respect the guy who keeps walking, unfazed, while others beg for attention. When you no longer treat her interest as your reward, she starts to wonder what she missed. Because silence in a world full of noise is power. Your calmness becomes a mirror. It forces her to ask, why isn't he reacting like other men do? Why isn't he falling apart? Why does he seem better without me? That quiet strength, your unshaken spirit, that's what haunts her. And here's the best part. When you stop obsessing over the one who didn't choose you, you start attracting people who see your worth without needing proof. You stop negotiating your value. You stop lowering your standards. You stop begging the world to notice you, because you've already noticed yourself. You've stepped into your own light, and now it's impossible to ignore. Here's a truth no one tells you. A woman's doubt can be the greatest gift to a man who's ready to grow. Sounds strange, right? But hear me out. When she overlooks you, when she passes you by, when she chooses someone else, it's not the end. It's an invitation. An invitation to become something greater than who you were when she knew you. Because real men don't crumble when they feel unseen. They transform. You see, the pain of being ignored or overlooked doesn't have to break you. It can build you. It can sharpen your focus, strengthen your spirit, and make you hungrier for your own success. Not hers, not anyone else's approval. There's something deeply powerful about saying, she didn't choose me, but I'm choosing myself. And that moment, when you shift the energy from her back to you, that's when your entire life begins to change. Now your goals become louder than her silence. Your vision becomes bigger than her attention. Your mission becomes more important than her presence. This is where real men rise, not by trying to impress her, not by waiting for her to come back, but by disappearing into the fire of growth, by going silent, not out of revenge, but out of focus. And when she finally looks back, she doesn't find the same man she left. She finds someone stronger, deeper, calmer, and completely out of reach. Let's talk about a silent weapon most men never learn to use. Stillness, not silence, not absence. Stillness. You see, when most men feel rejected, they get noisy. They start over explaining. They send long texts. They beg for answers. They try to win her back by doing more, saying more, proving more. But here's the secret real men understand. The more noise you make, the more value you lose. Because a man who is still, calm, grounded, unshaken, sends a message without saying a word. That message is, I don't need to chase. I don't need to react. I am whole, with or without you. That kind of energy hits different. It's unsettling in the best way. Because it forces her to sit with her own choice. It forces her to realize you're not like the others. You didn't fall apart. And that changes everything. Stillness is power because it reveals the truth. You were never trying to be chosen. You were choosing yourself the whole time. Let her wonder what you're doing. Let her feel the space you're no longer filling. That stillness, it speaks louder than any words you could send. It tells the world, I am not a man you forget and replace. I am a man you remember and regret losing. And the best part, you didn't have to say a thing. Here's the truth that hits the hardest. The pain of not being chosen is not a curse. It's your greatest teacher. Most men try to run from that pain. They numb it with distractions. They jump into new situations too fast. They chase validation from other women, hoping to forget. But the real ones, they sit with it. They let the pain teach them, not about her, but about themselves. Because that feeling of being passed over isn't just about the woman. It's about the wounds you never healed. It's about the parts of yourself you gave away too cheaply. It's about the parts of your life you neglected while trying to win someone else. This pain, it's not here to break you. It's here to wake you up, to show you where your standards need to rise, to show you where your strength was only skin deep, to remind you that you are the prize, but only if you live like it. When a man finally gets that, he stops waiting to be chosen. He stops adjusting himself to fit into other people's lives. He builds a life so powerful, so purposeful, so magnetic, that people don't have to choose him. They feel lucky just to be around him. That's how real men respond to rejection. Not with noise, not with neediness, not with anger, but with purpose, with presence, with peace. You don't chase what walks away. You rise so high that anything meant for you has no choice but to come find you. And when it does, you'll be too full, too grounded, too focused to need it. That's the final win. Becoming the kind of man who never needs to be chosen, because he's already chosen himself. That's stoic power. That's masculine peace. That's your path forward. And it starts now.